Good morning, Michael. So nice to see you. You know what's funny? We spoke a while ago about how it would be cool to get one of these events in together, and now here we are.
Mate, I tell you what, a few days away from one on TNT. I am super excited. It's always good to see you. Arriving here in Singapore just a couple of days ago, and even when I got to the airport and I was going through immigration, through customs and security, just the buzz here in Singapore about this event is incredible. Everyone knows about it. I was downstairs at breakfast about an hour ago here at the hotel, and as soon as people saw me, the waiters, the waitresses, the concierges, they all come and start talking about One Championship. They're talking about this card. They're talking about DJ and Moraes and Rodtang and, Lapicus and Alvarez. The excitement here in Singapore in particular is just palpable, and it's like that all over the world at the moment.
Michael, I'm going to put you on the analyst spot today. A couple of these matchups is incredible. First one I'm going to throw at you. Heavyweight sensation Omar Khan, who looked incredible in his debut. He's going up against Manny Bargy. What do you think about that matchup?
This is a great matchup. Omar Khan is just the personification of excitement. He's a Senegalese wrestler. So Senegal is a country in West Africa. I guess most of us know Senegal from their soccer exploits at the World Cup a couple of World Cups ago, where they did quite well, actually. I think it was the 2014 World Cup. But the national sport in Senegal is actually wrestling. And this wrestling style that Omar Khan brings into mixed martial arts, it's a very exciting wrestling style because it's one of the only wrestling styles that allows boxing, Senegalese wrestling. And these guys are huge stars in Senegal. They get 20,000 spectators to a wrestling event in Dakar in Senegal. And Omar is one of the biggest names in Senegalese wrestling. And as you said, he had a fantastic victory first time out of the gate here at One Championship. Mehdi Bargy didn't. Mehdi got beaten. It hasn't been a good time for the Iranians so far. And, Iran's a very proud wrestling country. Again, the national sport, like it is in Senegal, in Iran, is also wrestling. So there's a matter of national pride here for both men, for both countries that they're representing, given that wrestling is their national sport. For me, though, Omar Khan is just a beast. He's a monster. And if he puts Mehdi on his back, Mehdi's in all sorts of trouble. And I like the fact that Omar can also strike as well. I think he's got Mehdi in the striking department. I mean, Mehdi can load them up, but Omar, I think, works very well to move from his striking to his wrestling. This one is not going to go the distance. It won't go 3 rounds, Johnny. I think it goes a maximum 1, maybe 1.5 rounds. And I think we're going to see Omar Khan with his hand raised at the end of it.
Oof, I like that prediction, Mike. We have our first question here from Leon Jennings of Asian Persuasion MMA. Please go ahead.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Leon, good to hear from you, mate, as always.
Okay, I've got a tough question for you. Is there one particular fight you're looking forward to most in the One on TNT series?
Man, that is a tough question because there's so many good matches coming our way. I guess on this opening card this week, I mean, everyone's looking forward to Demetrius versus Adriano Moraes, just because, there's so much at stake, not only the world title, of course, but also, the legacy of both men, particularly Demetrius Johnson. So many people talk about Demetrius as the greatest of all time, that Demetrius Johnson is the gold standard of mixed martial arts athletes, having been a former UFC champion, having dominated over there, going 3-0 in One Championship and having a couple of tough contests out of the gates as well. If he beats Adriano, he does cement himself as the greatest of all time. But Adriano has other thoughts on that. And Adriano, a solid champion, only 3 losses on his record, and those 3 have all been via split decision. It's going to be hard for Demetrius. But Leon, what I'm really looking forward to, I'm a big Muay Thai kickboxing fan, is Rodtang. Because this is an American primetime audience's chance to really see Muay Thai in 4-ounce gloves for the very first time on prime time. And when you're talking Muay Thai in 4-ounce gloves, guys, for what of a better description, for those of you who aren't familiar with Muay Thai, let's say it's like mixed martial arts without the ground. Okay, you've got all the excitement of mixed martial arts striking, the knees, the elbows, the kicks, the punches, the spinning back fists, the jump turning back kicks, all that stuff. None of the ground game. We won't go to ground. And you're going to see a guy called Rodtang, who at 24 years old has had over 300 fights. I mean, this guy's the hottest striker on the planet. This guy demolishes opponents, and to fight against him in 4-ounce gloves is suicide. And, Mighty T from Australia is going to have his work cut out for him, but I'm super excited to be able to showcase Rod Tung and Muay Thai in 4-ounce mixed martial arts gloves to a primetime US TV audience.
I've named Rod Tang possibly the pound-for-pound scariest fighter on the planet. How far off would you say that's true, Michael?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's far off, mate, at all. I'm racking my brain trying to think of, there's so many brilliant fighters on the planet. Let's say that straight up. UFC has some brilliant fighters. In boxing, there's brilliant fighters. In sumo, brilliant fighters. I mean, a guy like Hakuho, that guy's scary. 44-time Grand Sumo champion. That's a scary guy. In Muay Thai, there's less scary guys. In kickboxing, there's a lot of scary guys. Rade Opicic is scary. Bada Hari is scary. A lot of scary people out there. But Rod Tung, I think, is next level. He's a little guy that packs so much power. But you specifically use the word scary, Leon. And he's scary because the way that he drops his hands and calls opponents forward to strike on him, and he lets them deliver 3 shots to his jaw, and he laughs at them. And then he gets this maniacal look about him where he goes from, Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. He goes from Bruce Banner to the Incredible Hulk, and he gets really scary and unloads on people. So when you're qualifying someone as being the scariest pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, yes, I would say Rod Tung is the scariest pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. If you don't believe me, if you're saying, Schiavello is just a hype man and full of hot air, watch. Watch this Wednesday in the USA, this Thursday across the world, and you'll see Rod Tung in 4-ounce gloves, just how scary he is.
This next one is from Zach Harkness of MMA Island. Zach, please go ahead.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Hello, Zach. Good, mate. Thank you.
So the first question I want to ask, this is the One Championship debut on American Prime Time. And there are so many awesome fighters in One Championship who will benefit from the American primetime view. So who do you think is the biggest superstar right now in One Championship that'll benefit most from fighting in front of an American primetime audience?
There's a lot of them. You've got the established stars, of course, like Demetrius, and you're going to benefit. But when you say rising stars that are really going to benefit from this, I think one guy that, I'm going to be the first to admit that I sleep on this guy every time he fights, and he continues to astound me, is Christian Lee. Lightweight world champion and one of the best, the best lightweight in one of the best on the planet in any weight division. I constantly underestimate Christian Lee. I do. I admit it. He goes in there, and I thought that Aoki would beat him, and he beat Aoki handily. I thought that Dagi would beat him, and he systematically, took apart Dagi in Tokyo. I thought Lapicus, would maybe give him a really tough challenge, and Christian Lee made Lapicus look like a breakfast meal. So I think Christian Lee, for him, he's in Hawaii, he's got an American audience. I think for him to be, prime time on TNT over the next few weeks, I think he's the guy that's going to really benefit the most. And that's the rising star. I mean, he's already a star. He's the world champion and a great one at that. But his star is rising. His stock is rising so fast. You've got to keep with Christian Lee.
We have this next question from Ivan Stewart of Dugout, Philippines. Please go ahead.
Very much. Good morning, Michael. If in case Adriano beats DJ on first day, do you think it's high time to put Adriano at least in the flyweight GOAT conversation, like the top 10 flyweight of all time, top 5?
Oh, you have to, Ivan. You have to. I mean, if he beats Demetrius, he's beating the greatest of all time. Not only the greatest flyweight of all time, but arguably the greatest of all time. So, you have to me. I mean, it will be no fluke. It will be no flash in the pan. Adriano can do it. Adriano has the skills. He's been training for a long time for this one. Adriano is very cerebral. He's got the grappling over Demetrius. I think Demetrius has the striking. Demetrius obviously has the wrestling. Both men know what it's like to be in world championship bouts. They're both super high caliber. And if Adriano beats Demetrius, you've got to put him in the factor as a, maybe not greatest of all time, because that spans all weight classes, but certainly greatest flyweight for sure, most definitely.
This next one is from Simon Romero of Behind the Grid. Simon, please go ahead.
You have commentated for many top-notch fight cards throughout your commentating career, but do you believe this is one of the best cards that you've seen so far?
Oh, most definitely. As soon as they announced all these TNT shows, I was super excited. The one we've got coming up this week, TNT 1, phenomenal. I mean, Demetrius Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Rodtang, Umar Kane, all on the one card is super exciting. Just having, one of our most exciting cards of all time was in Tokyo when we had Eddie and Demetrius on the one card. Now, having Rodtang there as well, all on that main card together, that's sort of like triumvirate of them, are fantastic. So, I've commentated some of the world's greatest fight cards since 1990. And yes, this is definitely up there, Simon. Super exciting.
Harkness of MMA Island. Zach.
So you mentioned how you keep underestimating Christian Lee, and it seems that if Eddie Alvarez is able to pick up the win against Yuri Lapkus, that next shot. So what do you think Eddie Alvarez will have to do against Yuri Lapkus to, in your opinion, you would favor him over the current champion Christian Lee?
Okay, well, let's just consider for a moment though. Eddie Alvarez is 1-1 in one championship and not ranked in the top 5. So Eddie needs to break into the top 5 first. Yuri's ranked number 2. So a winner would have put in the top 5. Does it catapult him to number 2? Maybe. Does it earn him a world title shot? Maybe. Or maybe he needs one more before he gets the world title shot. What does he need to do against Yuri? He needs to defeat him soundly and effectively. I mean, I think that to guarantee a world title shot against Christian, he's got to beat Yuri as effectively as Christian did, if not more effectively. And that happened inside of one round. And Christian's the only guy ever beat Yuri Lapkus. Lapkus has destroyed, 14 people, 13 in the very first round. I think, don't quote me, but I think 10 of those inside of 2 minutes. It's crazy. His record is outstanding. Now, Eddie hasn't fought for a long time. Yuri's been the more active of the two. This is a very tough fight for Eddie Alvarez. Don't underestimate Yuri Lapkus, because we're talking about Eddie wanting a title fight against Christian, because Eddie wants to go after the big 3. Having held the UFC title, the Bellator title, he wants to be the one championship world champion and become the first man in history to do that. But Yuri Lapkus wants a second crack at Christian. A win here for Yuri may earn him another crack, okay, against Christian Lee. But to answer your question, once again, he's got to defeat him really effectively. And that means the first round, in my opinion. He's got to take out Lapkus early and excitedly.
We have a next question here from Singapore Strike Sports. Singapore Strike Sports, please go ahead.
So one on TNT will be premiering at 8:30 p.m. in US. So in local time, it will be around 8:30 in the morning. So I'd like to ask whether, since this is the first time they will be fighting in the morning, do you think that might affect them during the fight? Or do you think this won't affect them at all?
That's actually a very clever question. I hadn't thought of that. That is a very clever question. Right. So let's think about it. If I've seen the schedule correctly, the athletes are heading to the arena, early in the morning, like 6:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, something like that. They've got to wake up early, fuel up, I guess, have some breakfast, get hydrated, get prepared. They've got to make sure they get enough sleep in the night before. Whatever pre-fight rituals they have need to be adhered to. I don't know what the guys go through. Some of them meditate. Some of them like to sleep right up till the bus comes. Some of them like to do a workout. Will that be impinged? I can't answer that. And, I think the person to probably ask out of the people on this call is probably Johnny more than me, because Johnny, you being a fighter yourself, would that affect you differently fighting at 8 o'clock in the morning local time or 9 o'clock in the morning local time than it would fighting at the same time at night? We've had all day to prepare. Johnny, maybe you can give us a better insight from a fighter's perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. For us, during fight camp, what we do is try to simulate the fight as closely as possible. So I would assume that you would be training and competing, putting your sparring rounds as close to the fight as possible. So I think if we're sparring early in the morning, the fight's at 8:30 in the morning, we would try to get us trainings in close to that time. So I would imagine that a lot of these fighters will be doing that to simulate the fight. Mike, I got a
Right.
question here for you. One bout that we got to talk about that has title implications. This welterweight matchup between Tyler McGuire versus Raimon Magomed You think if Tyler McGuire beats Magomed Aliev, he earns a shot, or vice versa against the now champ Cameron Abasov?
Man, what a tough division. Tough division. Yeah, Abasov is such a great champion so far. I mean, the way he came back from the brink against James Nakashima, when I thought Nakashima had him, I thought Abasov was done for all money, and then Abasov came back with that stunning finish. Title implications, if Magomed Aliev beats him, I think he's in line for a title shot. A battle between two wrestlers here, two very different styles of wrestling. The Dagestanis are so tough. I mean, that may be the toughest, one of the toughest combat nations on the planet. Dagestanis are incredible. The resolve is ferocious. You salivate at the thought of Magomed Aliev versus the champion Abasov, but then Tyler McGuire knows what it's like to go for a world title shot. You probably won't meet anyone who with greater resolve, greater mental resolve and physical resolve on the one roster than Tyler McGuire. The guy's an animal. The guy's a machine. The guy wants world title gold around his waist. And you're right, Johnny, that this one may be flying under the radar. And in my opinion, it could be the sleeper. It could actually give us one of the highlights of the entire One on TNT series. I'm talking about over all 4 cards, because our weight-to-weight division is absolutely stacked. Nakashima, Kazakhstan, of course, the champion Abasov. So I definitely think a win here for Magomed Aliev puts him into that title contention.
Michael, we have a question here from Jude Rios of Overtime MMA. His question is, what can you say about people saying one championship fighters are inferior to the big leagues? I personally see this as a misconception. The reason being them not following one. Even Eddie Alvarez got KO'd in his debut.
I think you need to rephrase the question a little. I mean, big leagues. We are big league. I mean, you're saying big leagues. We're the big league. You talk about Asia. One championship is the big league. We have commercial television broadcasts all over the world, and we're topping ratings. Places like Philippines, Indonesia, Myanmar, Thailand, here in Singapore, ratings topping. So we are the big league. Our athletes are paid as much, if not better, than other leagues in the world. We've got more eyeballs on us. Social media. You look at the social media imprints from last year. We're the 4th most watched sports organization on the planet. The 4th most watched, behind WWE. If I remember, it was NFL, NBA, one championship. 4th. So you can't say, compared to big leagues, because we are the big league. If you're saying compared to, let's say, UFC, which is the other big league, no, like you said, guys like Eddie have come over and had a very tough time. Eddie got slammed in his opening match against a guy who was pretty much unknown, to a lot of people. Demetrius Johnson in his first 2 matches had a bit of a rough go, against guys, again, who are unknown to a lot of people, but guys that are known here in Asia through one championship. Christian Lee can hang with anyone in the world. Ong Lang Sung can hang with anyone in the world. Angela Lee, Zhong Jinan, they can hang with anyone in the world. No, these, just because you don't know some of these guys, if you're in the Western section of mixed martial arts, or particularly in the US, North America, you don't know a lot of these names, doesn't mean they're not as good as the names you know. If not, some of them are better than the names you know. I mean, it's like watching football, like watching soccer. Just because you watch the English Premier League and you're all up in Manchester United or Arsenal or Liverpool or Chelsea, doesn't mean the players at the Italian Serie A in Juventus and Fiorentina and Napoli and Inter, or in France in the PSG or Lyon or wherever it may be, aren't as good. Just because you don't know them as well, or they don't get as much exposure mainstream as in the West, doesn't mean they aren't as good.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael. Always nice to see you again. I cannot wait to watch you commentate on April 7th.